I'm Nick Terzo, and you're listening to The Radical. This week's guest has spent nearly 40 years holding down the beat for one of the world's most successful metal bands. But in addition, he is also a very talented illustrator, artist, and entrepreneur. From comic books to coffee beans, he has it all covered. Charlie Benante from Anthrax joins me to discuss his new project, Silver Linings, with reimagined covers of some amazingly great songs. Additionally, we discuss future Anthrax plans, coffee, comics, and art. Coming up, my conversation with Charlie Benante. It's Nick, and the Radical Podcast is now powered in part by Playboy Condoms. At Playboy, they are committed to products that make sexual intimacy safe, playful, and fun for all. That's why they have introduced Playboy Condoms designed for maximum pleasure and safety with unique quality and scent features that exceed international quality standards. Now available at Walmart or Walmart.com. Respect your partners. Charlie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
It's good to see you. I can't remember the last time I saw you. I hope it wasn't all the way back to Clash of the Titans in 1991. That would be sad, but
that would be sad. But I hear that a lot. Well, the last time I saw you, and then someone will mention a date or a show, and it's like, had to be that time, you know? Because that's how we reference time now.
Always. So always on the road. For you guys, it's hard because it's all a blur, I imagine. So what was kind of resetting yourself last year and not really having any touring? And did you guys start to record a new record with Anthrax, or you didn't start to record a new record? Or?
No, we did not. The last thing that some of us were together for was a Dime Bash thing in when we were doing the NAMM show out in Anaheim, and every year Rita does like a annual Dime Bash, and we get up and play a bunch of songs with a bunch of friends, and Dave Grohl brings his big barbecue thing, and it's a great time. And that was the last time I was on a stage. So, and then about a month or two after that, everything just came to a halt. So we were writing songs for a potential new album, and then everything just came to a halt.
Right. Did you have dates lined up either for this year or last year already?
Oh yeah. We were booked. So everything that was then is going to be moved to, some of it's was moved to later this year. There's some festivals in the fall. So let's see, my feeling is everybody I know wants to get back out there, but they may be jumping the gun. And I'm one of those people who are just like, look, let's test the water a little bit before we all jump into the pool, But it just seems like everybody is like, come on, stop, take your mask off. Come on, get in the pool, And it's like, well, okay. But then when we may be back where we, were.
Right.
So
it's all hard to say, right? Without this booster thing, like no one knows how long these vaccinations even last, right? It's just like so much unknown still.
We don't know. It's like, I'm just waiting for the real green light. I see a green light, but it's kind of yellowish. So I want to see that full green light, and everybody's doing it. Everybody's safe, and there's no problems. Because all it takes is one show somewhere where an outbreak happens, and it's like, that's it. We're stopping.
Right. Well, and you guys being such kind of like a worldwide act, so to speak, it's just harder to think these other countries are going to have such a more difficult time with a vaccination process than with the U.S. is. We're fortunate to be here. It's going to be tougher outside of the U.S.
It is, but because let's say we have a bunch of festivals booked overseas. Okay, so you're playing UK festival, Spain, Italy, France, and then you're going to go to Scandinavia. So what happens if all of a sudden France has another outbreak and that festival gets canceled? So now a bunch of bands have like 5 days to a week off, and they just lost a ton of money because of it. So it's going to be hard to route things without, knowing for sure, is everything going to be able to play? So I don't know.
Right. And there's certain continents that are just kind of verboten anyway, because they can't get the vaccines. So, but you were hardly, being non-creative during this break. I mean, it looks like you have a record you recorded. That's a record of cover songs called Silver Linings. Is that yes?
That's yes. It wasn't recorded to be a record. It was recorded a sequence of like events that happened with back in like the end of February, March. I was consumed with this pandemic and other things too going on. And I was glued to the TV, glued to my phone. What's going to happen? Is this thing going to last 4 weeks? Are we going to be out for 4 months, a year? Who knows? We don't know. We can't get answers about this because really nobody knew. So I was becoming, day by day, I was getting really, really depressed. It started to affect me in such a way that I was just fucking dark. And my girlfriend, Carla, just said, you got to shut this off. You got to stop watching this stuff because it's just consuming your day and night. And that's what I did. I stopped and I started to be creative again with both music and art. And before I knew it, it snowballed into something bigger. And people were looking forward to watching these videos of these quarantine jams and these mashups and stuff. And it got good to me. And I wanted to keep pushing the envelope. And that's what I was doing. So I contacted a lot of my musician friends who I knew were going through the same thing I was going through, and they were all, let's do it. Yeah. And I was so happy about that. And people kept requesting that I put this out. And I kept saying, no, this is all it was intended to be. And then finally I caved in and putting it out on May 14th. And proceeds, a portion of it goes to the Neil Casal Foundation that puts instruments into kids' hands, because that's another big thing with me. It's like the first things that get cut in schools and the programs are like music and art right away. And for me, if that got cut when I was younger, man, I don't know what I would be doing. I'd be climbing the walls.
Uh-huh. Well, there's some great versions of cover songs on here. I have to say, you did everything from Run DMC mix-ups to mashups to Rhiannon and Bad Guy even got on here. I didn't know what to expect, and I just started listening to it. Wasn't really looking at the song titles, and then I heard Chloe Dancer and Crown of Thorns, and I was friendly with those guys back then.
Oh, really?
And it's the first time I've heard their music in probably maybe 25 years. And so it hit me so hard. It was so well done.
Wow.
It just took me to another place. And I was kind of like a little sucker punched that I wasn't paying attention to the track listing. And then that came on.
So it took you back.
It totally took me. It was like, holy cow. I'm like in another, like 30 years back, man, 32 years.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those bands that came out of that scene, of course, went on to bigger things. And then a lot of them too, during their bigger things, completely had the fucking floor drop out from underneath them, just suicides and stuff. And it's just unbelievable that band to me was the band that could have been, gone on to Pearl Jam, you know what I mean? but I love that album and just love the way he sings on that record. I was always moved by that song particularly. You know, like I remember when Singles came out and that song was in it, and it's like, oh, that's really cool. So I always wanted to play that song, and that's what I did. I had to teach myself how to play piano for that song, and just had fun with it.
And for those listening, we're talking about Mother Love Bone and Andy Wood, and Charlie covered Chloe Dancer and Crown of Thorns, and it's a really fantastic cover. Fantastic.
Yeah, my friend
so,
Mark,
as are the rest. So how did you curate like what you decided to do, and how did that come together? It was all individually initially because it wasn't a record in your mind.
No, these were like I would space them out, and something would pop into my head that I love that song since I was this big, and just wanted to do it. I the Rush songs that I started out doing, they don't appear on this, but there's a reason for that. I didn't want to put all the Rush songs on this because it would have completely just saturated the whole thing. I wanted to put them out separately. So in November, there'll be a record store day, and we're going to put out an EP of all the Rush songs. So that'll be separate. But, a lot of the songs were just songs from like I grew up listening, and songs that I just always loved, like Public Image. That song, the Massive Attack song has significant it brings
Teardrop. That was great.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite albums. And I remember being on tour overseas, and our A&R person for the record company over there gave me an advance of Mezzanine, and I just listened to it the whole tour, and I was just so absorbed in that record and the sounds, and oh man, it's just such an awesome record, so that was a little difficult for me to kind of pull off because it's multi-layered, and Carla, my girlfriend, who sings for a band called the Butcher Babies, I totally pushed her out of her comfort zone, and we would spend nights in the kitchen drinking wine and doing vocals, which of course it's a great place to do vocals in the kitchen. We just had fun with that too.
So everything was done, I mean, obviously from afar, remotely. So everyone just kind of dialed in their tracks, and then did someone help? Did you mix it? Who produced and like kind of mixed it?
So I basically produced most of it, but a good friend of mine, Andy Lagis, who used to be my drum tech, he's got a great ear, and he has a knack for mixing too. So he helped out a lot with this, mixing it all. And, like I would tell everybody who was a part of it, I said, please pay attention to the detail of the song, because that was really important to me. I wanted to capture the essence, but I also wanted them to bring, a bit of themselves into it. But it was really important to capture what the song was. So I don't know. That's the way I wanted to do it.
And aside from Carla, like who are some of the other collaborators on this, musician-wise?
Frankie from the band Anthrax, John from the band Anthrax, Snake Sabo from Skid Row. I have Marco Segura from Death Angel. I have, of course, DMC. Rob Caggiano, who's in Volbeat, Ra, who's in Suicidal Tendencies, some of my Canadian friends from Sum 41. It just, I don't know, man. Just like, I was like, yeah, I think you could do this, I'd really sell it.
Do you still have to do credits for these records? And that's a lot of work.
There's credits. They all appear on the cover, too. Everybody. I wanted to do some kind of, I don't know, just kind of like a punk rocky type thing. So my friend Brian Ewing, he did the cover, and Brian has this distinctive style too. And when I asked him to do it, he's like, I'd love to do it. And then he did it. And then, I don't know, it turned out really well.
Everything's turned out well with this. So, I mean, are you releasing it independently, your own, or is it through an independent label?
Our label, who also does the band Anthrax, they're putting it out, which I'm really happy about. But it does not. Not everybody, but people asking, you put it on CD, and I'm like, no, it's not going to be on CD. Just vinyl and download. That's it. Because the vinyl's more. I don't know, man. It's just I wanted to do the vinyl, and it's 2 different colored vinyl, of course, because I'm crazy about doing special things like that.
Yeah, and you've always kind of been directed that way, right? Even with Anthrax, I mean, with some of the artwork, and I mean that's really important to you. You have an eye for it.
Love it. I love doing that stuff. I used to love going up to the record company and sitting with the art department people and getting an education basically about, album cover art and liner notes and what color works best for the covers when people are walking in a record store, which of course we don't do that anymore. Like when we used to go to Tower Records and something catches your eye. Well, there's a reason it caught your eye because of the colors that they used. Things like that.
Yeah, it's a lost art form, that whole thing. No one understood those, the record companies always have such a bad rap, but the art departments had so many talented people in them. I mean, it was incredible.
My whole thing with record companies were I was friendly with the people who were working for us or working with us at the label, because why would you be a dick to these people who are working your record? You know what I mean? It's like they got to look at you every day, and if they don't like you, it's like, So be friendly with them. What's the problem? And for us, we were on Island Records, and Island in New York was 4th and Broadway, right above like the Tower Records.
Tower Records, yep.
And in the same building that Island was, there was apartments there too. And Keith Richards lived there, and Cher lived there, and we would see Keith all the time walking his dog, and it was just so cool. And we never hounded him or anything. We'd just say, "What's up, Keith?" And he'd be smoking and walking his dog. It's fucking cool,
Oh, it's incredible. And you're also doing. What you have a comic book that you're involved with?
Yeah, this graphic novel. That we were approached by Josh Bernstein, who runs Z2 Comics, to do a comic book about our album Among the Living. But each song would be a story, but it wouldn't be the story that pertained to the lyrics. You know what I mean? So we had a meeting with him and got a wish list together of who we would want involved as far as writers and artists, and everybody said yes. I'd love to do it. So Rob Zombie did a story, Corey Taylor did a story, Gerard and Mikey Way did a story, Joe Trotman. I mean, just an array of people who like, wow, that's great, and the stories are awesome too that they wrote. And the artwork is even better too. It's like, wow. So I can't believe that we have this great piece coming out. It's such a tribute to them and of course to us. But it's going to be really, really great.
What's it called again?
Well, it's the Among the Living graphic novel. It's basically the Among the Living songs, like I said, but just reworked. And Greg Nicotero is involved. He did this great piece of a zombie knot man. And if anyone doesn't know Greg Nicotero, Greg is, of course, from The Walking Dead. He's the director and designer, and he's awesome. Special effects. Yeah.
Cool. So is that sometime this year? You know when yet or not that'll be available?
I still don't know when the date is, but I keep hearing soon. So you can, people could go and pre-order it too on the Z2 website or the Anthrax website.
Right. And did you contribute something to the that punk rock and paintbrushes? Is there a table book? And you contributed? Yeah. Was that you and Carla did something, or you collaborated?
We actually did an art show 2 months ago in Chicago, and it was really really good. And man, for me, I would have never done anything like that. So she pushed me to do it, and I was happy that I did it. It was an achievement. So Punk Rock and Paintbrushes, who actually coordinated it all and put it on, they did a coffee table book, and we're featured in the coffee table book, and it's a really cool piece. So I like those people. They're all great.
Yeah, and that's available now.
Yeah.
That book's out. That's awesome. What's your interest like in art? Where was that fundamentally for you? Like, what turned you on to art? Maybe outsider art, I guess, more so than more mainstream art.
I think when I was growing up, I was always attracted to like Disney and comic books, and I would just sit and draw comic books when I was younger. Just Batman. And it's like, for me, school was, I had to do it. I didn't love it, but I also just knew exactly, for some reason, what I was going to do, in the future. And I always practiced music and art more so than anything, because I just knew this was going to take me out of my, my neighborhood. And it sure did.
It worked. It definitely worked.
I mean, because like, if anybody knows, like, you grow up in New York, especially if you grow up in one of in the boroughs. I grew up in the Bronx, and it was great upbringing. But you got to get out of there in order to make it. You can't stay there and be succuscal.
Even if it means crossing the river and getting into Manhattan, right?
Taking the express bus or taking the 6 train, you got to get to Manhattan.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You also do you have a coffee? Is this somewhere else you're going in life here?
I've always had my coffee. My coffee's it turns, I think, almost 10 years now. I've been doing it, but
wow.
So it's something I've done for a while. And then about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, hooked up with a company here in Chicago called Dark Matter. And now they distribute my coffee for me and do it. And it's something that I've just always loved. I mean, I would always say, if I could make a coffee cologne, I would wear it and just, everybody come and smell me. But it's just, I just love it.
And do you source the beans? I mean, did you find like someone who could roast them for you to your liking? I mean, how involved were you in that part?
So when I did it like more independently, I did it that way. I had a roaster in New Jersey who would do it, and man, I spent so much time like getting the ones that I wanted, roasting them a certain way, and then when I met Dark Matter, we had a day when I went down there, and about 10 of us stood around a table and just sampled coffee, just just drinking it and getting like, yeah, that's the one. Let's go with that. So it's not something I just slapped a sticker on. It's something that I was a part of, like, picking the beans and how they're roasted and just everything. Because I always feel that experience in the morning should be one of the best experiences you have throughout the day. So if you wake up, the coffee, just stinks up your house, that's a great day.
And you have different varieties? Is there a few varieties?
Yeah. So I have the basically a real strong dark roast. I have more of a lighter roast. And then we were doing one with a Fernet Branca in it. So the beans were pretty much saturated with Fernet Branca. And if nobody knows what Fernet is, it's basically...
what is that?
It's like... It's let's say an after dinner type of drink or a digestive, and it's great. It's kind of in the same. It's like an Amaro.
I got it.
And it's really good. So we were doing that for a while, and then we just did a limited run of that, and we just did some more, and now we won't do it for a while.
Right. And is this in retail or is it just something you do online?
It's online, but Dark Matter, they're in stores too. But mostly online. You could go to my website and get it. You should really at least sample a bag. go to charliebenante.com. Get your coffee. You won't be disappointed. That's the thing.
That's awesome. Good for you. I love that. So as you guys kind of like, I mean, you're kind of encroaching on, or did you just hit like your 40th anniversary of the band?
The 40th anniversary is something that, I mean, our first album came out in '84, but Scott wanted to base it on when he started it. So he did it in high school in like '81. I came into the band '83 when basically right out of high school. And like I said, our first album came out in '84. So we're celebrating our 40th anniversary. It doesn't seem like 40, but I don't know, man. Just time just flies.
So strange. Do you have any insight in how a band actually gets through 4 decades and still can act as a unit and tour and be a brotherhood?
Well, that's the thing about us, and I'm sure the bands totally know what I'm talking about when I say you are all a part of this, not just a team, but like a gang. And we knew on our first tour, we were in a van going across country, and we knew when we came back who was going to make it and who wasn't going to make it. And sure enough, we had 5 of us at the time. 4 of us bonded, and the other one just, man, couldn't hang with things. And that was it. We made a singer change, and that was it. The band was the 5 guys for the longest time, and that was most of our success from there. So you're going to have in and outs with everybody, because as the years go on, people change, your life changes, who gets married, who has children, and that dynamic it changes, and you can't help but let life affect that. But you have to be strong enough to say, okay, we still have our relationship, we still do this thing that we all enjoy. Let's not rock it, let's not fuck it up. And that's basically how it is. Some bands are just, I mean, I would admit that when we were younger, we were a bit more both arrogant and a bit ignorant. And, you don't have wisdom. You don't have the experience to draw from. So sometimes you make a decision that maybe that wasn't the best decision. You live with it. So that's how it goes.
And I mean, of the iterations of the music business, I mean, ever kind of, I don't know, defeat and, frustrate is for sure. Or have you guys been pretty adaptable to, going from the traditional ways of recording, the traditional ways of distributing music? Now we got to get into the streaming universe. I mean, how has that affected you guys, and how you view fans, how you want your music distributed? Well,
again, that question is it's a loaded question, because so many thoughts come to my head about that question you just asked. I put a lot of the blame on the record company for what's going on now. I think they could have protected us way better than they did, protected themselves way better than they did, and they just let it go. And basically what we have now is a legal form of stealing music. And that's how I feel. And people say, oh yeah, well, you guys are old now, so you don't know what the younger kids are doing. And like, for me, it's like, younger kids don't know shit. It's like there needs to be people who say, no, that's not cool. And another big important part about it is there's no balance. So if you go to European countries, you will see people still buying stuff, especially in our genre. People buy the product. And why do they do that? Because that's what they love. That's how they that's how they experience music. Other people, it's on their phone, and that's how they do it. But for the most part, there's no balance. You shouldn't discriminate against someone who loves to get the album and get that smell, and and I just feel like we're just so ready to like, no, that's not cool anymore. You can't do that. It's like, fuck you. That's the way I want it, and I just think it's wrong.
Right. And I mean, has it been, aside from the streaming part, has it been a trip for you guys to watch, I'll go out and see some bands I've been involved with now, and I'll go to one of their shows and you'll see everyone bringing their kids now, and the kids know the lyrics and stuff. I mean, is that interesting for you to watch, like this generational thing it being passed on?
I love that. I actually think that's one of the most amazing things about music is like, it just crosses over, and man, it's like another generation gets it. And I think that's why nostalgia is just so popular, because you weren't there when it happened, but you can also get a slice of it in a way, you know what I mean? So like your kids, maybe if they're 6 years old, 7 years old, they really don't know it, but later on they'll go, oh, I was there. I saw Anthrax and blah, 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 So I think it's that part too. And I think it's encouraging that dads, moms, brothers, sisters bring their, kids or their, younger siblings to the show and just say, this is it, enjoy this, because who knows how long it's going to be around,
Right. And I mean, as you guys look at your touring world, I mean, is it easier at this age kind of more to do like a package thing? And that way you can, I don't want to sound like an old guy, but it's like, hey, I don't mind being the act that opens for this guy now. I'm done at 9:00 at night, and I can go back to the hotel and I'm out of here. So
that's way easier than carrying it all on your shoulders. But yeah, at some point, you also have to, go out there and play a lot of deep cuts for your fans who want to hear them. They don't want to hear here's the top 15 songs. It's like, well, we need to play these songs too, because, people are coming who don't want to hear Antisocial again, so we know this. But a lot of times too, we also have to take into consideration that if you're playing Cleveland tonight and then you're playing Detroit tomorrow, the people are coming to see the show and they have no idea what happened in Cleveland. So if they don't hear Antisocial in Detroit, they may feel like, what the fuck? They didn't play Antisocial, So you can never, please everybody, but you have to do your signature songs, it's important.
Right. And I mean, in the promotional part of it's gotten less. I mean, you don't have to do the radio, but I talk to knuckleheads like me now that have podcasts, I guess. So maybe it's even worse because now there's more of us than there ever was radio stations.
I swear, like the sales of ring lights and microphones shot up this year. Everybody's got one.
Yeah, Sure's having a good year, let me tell you. So
sure they are.
It's fantastic. And so you're happy you're in a new relationship. You have a woman who's lovely. I saw a picture. She's beautiful. And
oh, thank you.
You guys have the common interest in music and art. And so that sounds very balanced for you.
Yeah, she's kind of a nerd. And we like the same kind of things. And it's like, oh, it's exciting to say, oh my God, look at this, and the other person's like, oh fuck, that's so cool. We have to get that. Like, we're going to this Banksy exhibit in July, and we're both kind of stoked about that, to see that. We're trying to get to the Marvel exhibit, but fucking thing keeps selling out. I got to try and get it in at Marvel to get into that.
For sure. And I read in the Forbes thing, I thought it was kind of cute that you guys during the quarantine were having like Friday night, like just sitting around a table drawing. That was your kind of couples nights. And I thought that was adorable. So,
I mean, it's like we would do that and, binge watch, shows. And, it's like, that's another thing I must say thank you, who the creators, the directors, everybody for keeping me entertained with The Boys and The Marvelous Miss Maisel and God, so many other shows that just loved, you know.
Tiger King. Just kidding.
Oh yeah, do you remember that? That seems like it was years
that
ago.
Started it. That started the whole pandemic binge watching.
That's right. That started the whole thing. Wow.
Yeah, Tiger King was the OG. So,
wow, dude, where did it all go?
Yeah. So, are there like, you know, I call the show The Radical. Were there radical moments in your life, personally or professionally, that could have kind of directed you, you know, either in a good way, directed you in a bad way, that you can recall?
I mean, wow, that's. I mean, I could have taken
coming from the
direction.
Bronx. That's an easy answer, right?
So. Yeah. Well, you know, for me growing up, I mean, when I was younger, we had, you know, a devastating thing happen in my family where we lost my dad when I was 5. And then my mom had to become, you know, the breadwinner and still manage 5 kids. Because I come from, you know, a family of, I have 4 older sisters and I was the youngest. So like I was 5 when my dad died, and it was, it didn't really hit me then. Later on, kind of got it. And I would forget, you know, certain things about him. And then my sisters and my mom and my, you know, aunts, uncles, they would always remind me or tell me stories to keep that alive. But yeah, it was rough, especially for my mom. And she was always trying to just protect me from not going a certain way because it could have went that way. But like I said earlier, I was so focused on music and art that I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew what was going to get me out of it.
Right. Was there a male figure that kind of came into your life at any point that helped kind of
my uncle
guide you a little bit? Or yeah.
I would say my uncle, and later on, like my sisters got married, and my brother-in-law, he was that type of figure, you know. But yeah, and you know, I would say horror movies and superheroes helped me to kind of, you know, well, that's what I want to do, you know.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of women power. That's good in today's day and age to have been around that. That's awesome. So,
right. And I guess that's why with my daughter, I'm raising her in a way of, you know, don't take shit off of anybody. In this world, people are going to try and keep you down, especially being a woman. Don't fucking stand for it, you know? So,
yep, absolutely.
So I see that in her already.
How old is she?
15.
Awesome. Nice. So aside from your own music, I mean, is there something right now you're listening to? Is there any younger bands or kind of new things on the scene you've heard that you actually like?
Oh, it's such a tough question because I don't have one. Like, I mean, they're newer bands, but they're not new. They've been out for a couple of years now. And I like what they're doing. But yeah, there's, you know, I'm always so open to hear something that's just completely just makes my head spin. Like, oh my God, yes, this is it. But for the most part, I seldom think like, man, has it all been done? You know, are we ever gonna, you know, even with movies too, it's like, are we ever gonna get something that just makes us go, wow, that's it? You know, I don't know. And I think a lot of times when we had A&R people at labels, it was so important for the artist because they would push you. They would sit with you and talk about where you're going with the record or where you're going to go with your next record. And I'll never forget, like Steve Rabowski, who signed us to Elektra. Steve would talk to us sometimes 3 times a week about, you know, what kind of record are we going to make? Where do you want to go? What do you want to, things like that. I feel that's a lost art, because it's like people now look to other bands or YouTube and go, yeah, I could sound just like that too. And nobody has that individuality that was once there, And I always say, the four bands that were considered the big four, us, Metallica, Slayer, and Megadeth, the four of us would release records, and especially the four signature records that we did release, which was Metallica had Master of Puppets, Slayer had Rain and Blood, Megadeth had Peace Cells, and we had Among the Living. Those four records don't sound anything alike. They're completely, separate from each other, but yet it was metal. And I don't see that anymore in the metal world. Like, I don't think people are hungry like we once were, and take chances, and everything just sounds tuned down. Some dude screaming, and it's this fast double kick stuff that happens, and then where's the song?
Right. Well, that's what I'm wondering, because it seems like a lot of this stuff is cycles, right? So it seems like some of it's cycling back. People say rock is dead, hard rock's dead, can't compete with hip hop and the pop stuff. But then you see all these kids that are teenagers online playing instruments like madmen, really proficient with their instruments. But that is the question. What you just said right there is like, can anyone write a song?
Right. Right. Can you learn craft? Because as far as hip hop goes, that to me is gone. It's dead. There's nothing new in it anymore. I think the last, I can't even tell you the last type of song that came out that was like, that's really good. Maybe I got to go back to like, Eminem or I don't know. And then Post Malone started a kind of a different sound, and now everybody sounds like Post Malone. So it just always eats itself up. But like, I'm talking about the real important hip hop, like, the Run DMCs, the Beastie Boys, the Public Enemies, the De La Souls, there's songs, and I don't hear that anymore. Everything just sounds the same to me. Because every once in a while I'll go on Apple, and let me hear what the top, 10, 15 are. And then I'm just, wow, nothing there. And of course you're like, oh dude, you don't know anymore. You're too old and cranky. It's like, no, I don't think that at all. I'm always open to something.
Well, let's take all the songs you just did and run them through Auto-Tuner and let's put them out on TikTok. You'll be so famous. So.
Yeah, I guess. But I don't know, man. I just want people to respect the way it used to be, and don't take music as it's not disposable, and that's what it's become, and that's sad.
Yeah, it is. But you did a good thing. You curated some really interesting songs. You made them your own. They're fantastic versions, and I suggest to all my listeners that they find Silver Linings.
Yes.
It's a fantastic collection of what are really, evergreen, just really well-written songs.
Yeah, from some amazing artists. And all we did was try and put our little twist on it and compliment it. And but thank you. I appreciate that.
Successfully you did that. So
yeah.
Okay, and the comic book's coming out. The coffee's online. We'll link to everything online for you. You'll tell me where to send people.
Yes.
And I really appreciate you doing this, and it would be so great to see you guys live again someday soon.
Oh, absolutely. I really appreciate you doing this too.
Dude, it's my pleasure. You guys have been a little bit in my life since about 91, I guess. So
yeah, since Pablo.
30 years. No, since Alice in Chains.
Since Alice in Chains.
On tour.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking about that the other day, about that tour and how great it was. And man, everybody was just so cool. Everybody just hung with each other. And it was such a great vibe. And love those guys.
I mean, it's weird, because it was just like this camaraderie out of that tour. And it was so low key, on the road. Everyone was so friendly, and it was a great tour.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the fans must have felt that too.
The thing about that tour that was awesome was even on days off, we would all hang out together. Which was, most bands are just goodbye.
Yeah. No, but it was a really nice experience to be around that. So
yeah.
And then you put Alice on, which makes them kind of the anomaly out of the three of you guys, but it worked.
Yeah, they were, but they weren't. That's what I felt, because I kind of knew it's like, okay, maybe you're not getting this now, but 6 months from now, you're all going to get it. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Forward thinking, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for doing this, and good luck with the record, and stay healthy.
Thank you.
And
you
like
too.
I said, I can't wait to see you live again.
Cool. Thanks, Nick.
That's our show this week. We thank our sponsor, Playboy Condoms, for supporting these episodes. To follow what's happening with this podcast, you can go to theradicalpod.com. You'll find past episodes, show notes, and even merchandise such as t-shirts and hats. Also, I encourage you to follow and rate us on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also, please follow us on social media, The Radical Pod, where we reveal more about upcoming guests. Thanks for listening and spreading the word.